Welcome back, everybody, to another replay cast here on the YouTubes. I hope you're looking forward to that upcoming game because I can tell you, just by looking at the names, it is hype alert, guys. We're having two of the biggest names in competitive Warcraft 3 duking it out here on Amazonia. In the most recent tournament, the WGL Summer Championships, we've seen these two titans clash into one another. Moon, of course, also known as the Fifth Race, an absolute legend, the most prolific Warcraft 3 player of all time. We have him face the probably greatest talent we've got in the competitive scene, a relatively young player known as 120 from China, plays the Undead race, has insane micro, has shown several good results as of late, and although in the most recent past, he's been a little bit inconsistent, a little bit more inconsistent than many would have expected. He's still one of the tippity tops of the table that you need to beat. And even for a player of the caliber of Moon, this is definitely not a walk in the park. So let's get right into it. The map is Amazonia. We're going to check out what this semifinal of the WGL had in store. We're going to enter Observer Vision, and we're going to check out Moon on the top right here in Amazonia, playing the Night Elves as per usual, starting off with a relatively normal build. Are we going to see Demon Hunter against Undeads? Are we going to see another Keeper? Are we going to see Warden, which are all legit options? Warden, of course, a little bit more exotic than the other two choices, but let's see what Moon has in store for us. His opponent, his adversary on the other half of the map is 120, starting off relatively standard, with a altar and crypts right after to follow it up with. Fiends, of course, are the go-to. We usually see a couple of ghouls in the beginning to help with creeping, to help with harassing sometimes, especially when the Night Elf likes to go or wants to go for an early expansion, which after 1.31 and the Keeper nerfs is not really a guaranteed thing all the time anymore, because by no means is it easy for Night Elves, or as easy for Night Elves these days, to get these early expansions through. The Ghoul is, by the way, trying to distract those creeps into, or trying to divert them into attacking the tree, which in this case is not a Tree of Life, it is an Ancient of War. Unfortunately, those rogues have none of it. They're like, attacking trees? What are you trying to get us to? There's no loot in that, Ghoul. So they're going back into their standard position. But as you can see, with this additional harass, the Ancient of War was brought to roughly 50%. For later base engages or harass moves, that could make a really big difference. And if Moon wants to repair that, of course, it's going to cost him either time by uprooting the tree and eating a tree, or money/resources if he wants to repair it with a wisp. So sometimes these little details matter, most of the time they won't, and of course also what needs to be said is that this tree wants to be used for early creeping, right? So once the hero is there, a little bit before that actually, speaking of which, the hero is going to be a Keeper, you want to use that massive Ancient of War as a meat shield, or in that case, as a wood shield. So with this tree getting brought down to 50% already, nowhere near is this going to be an easy peasy walk in the park. So he needs to pay special attention to the tree's health, which in this case he's doing. Keep in mind that you don't want to kill these creeps with the lightning shield. The lightning shield pull, of course, was perfected here, but if either the tree or the lightning shield kills these neutral creeps, then the hero's not going to get any XP. So well done by Moon, not really breaking any sweats. Let's take a look at the Undead side of things. Goes for the exact same thing, albeit a little bit slower, of course. Night Elves, one of the fastest creeping races in the game, next to humans, and then maybe orcs. Undeads traditionally a little bit slower because their buildings take, with a build order, of course, it takes them longer to get units out. The Death Knight, relatively low creep damage compared to other heroes, if you don't want to use Death Coils, which is very mana intense. Speaking of which, though, 120 does it just to get the level 2 and the Unholy Aura as quickly as possible. So in very few instances, you really want to use your Death Coils to secure creeps, either when there is a hero available on the opposing side that could steal away experience and items, mostly Blade Masters, because they're invisible, they have great damage. So sometimes you just want a Death Coil, even when you don't have vision, or even when you don't have dust, because you just have to sometimes expect that there could be the chance of a Blade Master lurking in the shadows. So now we have this duel facing off Keeper and Death Knight. This duel is usually won by a Keeper if he's not low in health, because he could entangle the Death Knight if the Death Knight was committed. So yeah, I like what 120 is doing, just, you know, presencing here in the middle a little bit, not committing too much without units. Speaking of units, he couldn't even threaten the Night Elf, even if he wanted, because despite all the nerfs to the Keeper, he's still a very dangerous force to be reckoned with when there is fiends or ghouls around, which are very susceptible to getting damaged and entangled in the early game. Now we see the ghouls coming over. Ghouls are probably expendable, so you don't really break any sweats when you lose a ghoul or two early, but you definitely don't want to lose that many. I think he just got the kill on the Trent. He also bought a Telestaff earlier, so he can reinforce the ghouls immediately and heal them if need be. So the Death Knight is looking pretty solid in experience here. Tries to get some damage done, but probably doesn't really get a whole lot done. An Entangle is being used. Another one is being used. Moon is really committed to get this poor ghoul into his experience pool, but 120 has enough mana to keep this little fella alive. No movement speed boots on either side. So, wow, he even commits the last Death Coil onto it. That's a really mighty hefty investment in terms of mana resources here, because unlike the Night Elf, who can go back to base and use the Moon Juice, the Undead Hero, excuse me, will probably not have that much of a good time. Won't have it as easy. So, yeah, 120, investing a lot to keep the ghoul alive, but also investing a lot of mana, and is now pretty much defenseless if the Night Elf were to engage in another skirmish. We see 4, 5, 6 ghouls trying to go for another creep camp here. Of course, there's invisible units, so this is not just the two of them. There is going to be more. All the rogues are now being revealed and shown. Needs, of course, to make sure he doesn't lose a ghoul. That is a little bit sloppy here by 120. Doesn't cost him the game most likely, but those are a couple of sloppy mistakes that normally we're not used to seeing of a player of his caliber. Let's take a look at the bases here. Rushes straight into tier 3, by the way. And okay, we need to talk about this, guys. We need to talk about this SimCity. So it looks like his beginning necropolis wasn't even upgraded. So he built another one a little bit further into the front. And the reason being, of course, why did he build another necropolis? You probably noticed how heavily he was using ghouls in the early game to creep and harass, right? So that means he didn't have those ghouls at the lumber station. So that means he was probably very low on lumber. Now, if you need more food, if you want to get more units out on the field, but you're lacking food, you can build necropolises instead of ziggurats. The advantage being, necropolises don't cost lumber. They cost a little bit more gold, but if you use your ghouls early on to get other stuff down on the map, that's definitely a trade you're willing to take. Also, it allows you to get this Hall of the Dead or this Black Citadel a little bit closer towards where the enemy units could be attacking from. So it's going to be insanely hard for the Night Elf player Moon to either engage or commit to a push into this undead base, because it covers so much more ground, more unholy ground, and a bigger radius for this outstanding Black Citadel to fire those slowing shots. So a little bit of a cool thing to keep in mind when looking into this undead base. Now, speaking of which, the tech was so insanely fast and the lumber issues were so grave that the Lich actually arrives a little bit later than we're used to it. Moon, by the way, plays a classic 1.30 style, which is, you know, Keeper into Alchemist. Both heroes were heavily nerfed ever since the beginning of this new WarCraft 3 era, with the new patches and stuff. So let's see what they can do throughout the course of this game. The Lich currently only has a Rod of Necromancy, passes it over to the Death Knight as well. The inventory of the Death Knight is a little bit disappointing. When you find Boots of Quel'Thalas as an undead player, it usually makes you shake your head in disbelief, because you don't even have any agility heroes, even if you wanted to get any. So you would either have to go for agility heroes out of the tavern, which is something undead players usually don't do. So it's probably an item that's going to be sold unless you really value the extra armor it provides. The attack speed, of course, coming from agility could be a nice item for the Lich when he gets access to the Orb of Corruption, which he currently doesn't even have yet because tier 3 was not ready when he left the base. So let's see what's going to happen here. It's now ready. Black Citadel has been deployed. The statues are a little late there as well. Only 1-2 fiends as well in his possession. So it really takes the undead 120 quite a lot of time to get a strong army rolling. So he was basically prioritizing fast tech and creeping over getting as many units out as possible. That, of course, means that he's also going to be low on anti-air measures, which Moon is exactly going for. Hippo Riders, maybe some Fairy Dragons to get into the mix as well. And then you have an abundance of air units, which even with a decent number of Fiends is not easy to play against. Because I always say this, like in this matchup, Night Elf versus Undead, you kind of, when you're at the Undead, you have to do such fabulous micro. You have to do so many things at the same time, right? You have to web the units. You have to kite back. You have to use your heroes. You have to use the statues too. Whereas the Night Elf oftentimes just has to move into your undead army and focus individual targets down. So I think from a mechanical micro-management point of view, the undeads are challenged quite more with this heavy air unit style. There are the Fairy Dragons that we talked about, by the way. But if there is a player that can pull it off, I think it is 120. One of the greatest talents, one of the best players that we've got in the entire world. We have seen him in the past dismantle this dismantling its heavy air style, you know, with just spamming cheap air units out on the Night Elf side several times. Why shouldn't he be able to do it again? Alright, so Moon is going relatively deep into his opponent's half of the map. Finishes off these small creeps, which gives level 3 to the Tinker, which is nice. And here we go. Moon finds the uncovered angle of 120's base. Goes in from the right, which probably the undead player didn't expect in the first place. So this Black Citadel, for the most part, was completely useless. It didn't cover this angle here. And with the Keeper, of course, with the deforestation, thanks to the trends, you could even create new ways and angles on how you want to enter this undead base. We see the Chemical Rage, actually, additional attack speed and damage onto those acolytes. They're almost all gone here. And only now, after a little bit of damage had been dealt, the Keeper decides to peace out and use a TP scroll. Of course, once again, we have this phenomenon where the Rip Fairy Dragon, he was abandoned by his comrades. I feel a little bit sad about Pookie. But yeah, we have this case in which the Night Elf has a superior economy. With 2 bases, he can afford as many TP scrolls as he wants to. So Moon is just going to probably rinse and repeat exactly this approach, go deep into the undead base, kill some stuff, weaken the economy of the 1 base undead, and then TP out to safety. And as long as he can keep the Fiend counter low, his area army is going to reign supreme. There's basically no counter because once he has enough Fairy Dragons, the undead heroes can't even nuke him down anymore. They are magic immune, so the only thing that the heroes will be able to assist in taking down then will be the Hippo Riders. Beautiful dispel of this neutral lightning shield, by the way. The Destroyer says yum yum and devours it. Gets a little bit of extra mana and extra damage. Alright. So it's a relatively even game so far, but I think if this game ends or goes into the super late game, Moon is definitely going to be in a brilliant spot here. Already we can see that the undead army is investing some mana into killing those wisps before they can actually sap the mana out of you. Nova into the Hippo Riders, but look at how many Fairy Dragons they are. The Fairy Dragons immune to magic, as we said earlier. The Fairy Dragons also in their shapeshift form will be able to deal great damage onto the statues. Whenever enemy units in their radius cast a spell, they deal damage onto them. But he doesn't even think about using shapeshifting here. He just wants to be as damaging and threatening as possible. Uses the piercing damage as well to take down a destroyer here sometimes. That would be a great pickup for sure. But look at 120 and how well he's kiting. Web back, web back. That's the way you want it to do, while keeping as many of your Fiends alive as possible. Tries to go for a little bit of a counter nuke onto the Alchemist, but he is too tanky, even has an invul potion, so I think this Alchemist won't die anytime soon. Now, Moon needs to be very cautious. The moment this potion runs out, and if 120 has another Coil Nova ready, that could be the end of it. But first of all, the mana isn't there. Now it is. Now he could go for it. He staffs it out. Moon is too fast, too furious with that one. But honestly, with so much action and so much focus being put onto engaging into the air units of the undead, I think he forgot about actually focusing down the Fiends. Also, we saw beautiful coil macro all the time by 120. I think he lost like what? 1-2 Fiends in this engagement that he had to fight against a superior army in terms of numbers. Beautifully done. This is basically what he has to repeat for a couple of times until the undead heroes are so strong with maybe double level 5 that they can carry these fights almost single-handedly. I love what he's doing here, by the way. He's using his Wand of Illusion to create additional Fiends. So if Moon didn't scout this, then he's probably going to be like, wait a minute, where do all those Fiends come from? So good players in this case, they will really use wisps preemptively, and they will sometimes count the units, and they will probably smell that something is fishy. And Moon doesn't respect this seemingly incredibly high Fiend counter, so he's just engaging right into it, doesn't buy those bluffs. Now, one Fiend is dead. 1-2-0 now with the backs against the ropes, needs to kite a little bit more. These Treants, of course, so annoying to deal with. The Destroyers have to devour them immediately, and now we have some shape-shifted fairies in here. Look at the damage onto the statue and everything that is nearby. Dark Ritual onto Dark Bargain onto the Fiend, so the Lich doesn't run out of mana, but nothing is really hurt on the side of Moon. While the first engagement went so well for 1-0, this one, I think the Night Elf God is going to decide in his favor. There is a little bit of an illusion, body blocking or meat soaking, damage soaking going on here right now, but overall, look at this. Only one Fiend left. Another Entangle would also mean the end of it, but I think this time it is Moon who's running a little bit out of mana there as well. But the Tinker is fast, is furious, tries to chase down those statues, gets one. No, he actually cast the poison instead of actually going for another auto attack onto the statue. A little bit of a mistake there in my opinion. Needs to be staffed out as well because these undead heroes still have mana for at least another coil here. By the way, we saw the Alari's Flute of Accuracy being picked up earlier, which is really nice, of course, for all those Fiends and Destroyer damage as well. And although 1-0 is fighting so valiantly, although he's fighting so bravely, he lost so many units already, and most importantly, he doesn't have the double base income. That is literally why Moon feels so comfortable right now. Even if he were to lose more Fairy Dragons, which, by the way, there's an abundance of right now. This is a disgusting number of Fairy Dragons, if you ask me. If you're an undead player, that is not easy to fight. But yeah, even if he were to lose more units, you know, more Fairy Dragons, he doesn't care. Those are cheap units. They can be reproduced very fast. They don't cost a whole lot of resources. And, of course, you have that second base. And without any normal damage, without abominations or maybe even a meat wagon, this expansion is never going to fall because Fiends just don't cut it. Speaking of which, there's only a measly number of 3 Fiends available. How in the world is 1-0 supposed to stand through this? We see good dispels here by the Devourers coming in from the Destroyers. We see good heals, we see good movement here, but in the end, is it going to be enough? The Death Knight is still level 4, gets entangled himself hit this time, so basically Moon wants to make sure that the Death Knight will be too far away to heal additional Fiends with Death Coil. Beautifully done. That Fiend is going to fall there as well. The Fairy Dragons can take shortcuts over the trees because they're air units as well, and this looking mighty, mighty dire now for 1-0. What can he do to stay in this game? Cute little move there by Moon. In order to buy more time, he puts those fairies into stationary form, which makes them a little bit more resilient, gets them more armor than in their normal form. Plus 12 armor here, by the way. They still take extra damage from Fiends because it's light armor, but it certainly allows them to survive a little bit longer. But unit after unit is perishing on the undead side. This time, he's got the big black citadel in his back, though. So maybe he can use the additional damage and the additional slow to put a little bit of pressure into the Night Elf army. And you know the golden rule of WarCraft 3? One of the golden rules, in fact, never fight in an undead base. And that's exactly what Moon is trying to prevent from happening. So he TP'd out. Once again, he's got superior income, though. Let's take a look at some of the items here. No more TP at the moment. Scroll of Healing available for the Alchemist. Not really a whole lot is there. Definitely needs to make sure to visit a shop, which he's doing right now. The invul is absolutely necessary. There we go. Because it feels like 1-0 has developed this special taste, this special habit of focusing down the Alchemist, which makes a lot of sense too, because with the armor reduction coming in from the Orb of Corruption on the Lich, the already low base armor gets reduced, and when a human has negative armor, that means they take additional damage. So an Alchemist, as good as he is, could sometimes be a very rewarding nuke talent. Now, 1-0 gets scouted by Moon's Wisp. Moon knows exactly what the undead player is up to. Oh no, the big Granite Golem is actually going back into the creep camp location. That costs him valuable time, and valuable time that is for Moon to cut off the flight path and surprise 1-0 from behind. But the undead army is fast. We see a level 3 Death Knight. Did he go level 3 aura? No, he did not. Level 3 coil. Sometimes undeads do that with a level 3 aura just to make sure that they have better kiting potential and faster movement speed, but they needs to be... Like, 1-0 needs to be so careful. Another Entangle and this Death Knight may fall, so he needs to TP out to safety. That's exactly what he's doing right now. Maybe tries to kill 1 or 2 more units as he goes out. But man, this game is so tense. I can't believe how well 120 is actually stabilizing in this game right now. You know, he's getting a decent number of fiends. Only goes for 1 fiend production, 1 crypt production because he doesn't have an expansion. I think going for an expansion at this point is not an option for the undead player because too great is the risk of getting, you know, backstabbed with all those air units, getting harassed over the tree lines. So I think it makes sense to force a decision on 1 base play. I think the more fiends there are, the stronger the undead army. The more air units in the very late game, the weaker the Night Elf is going to be, because I don't think Fairy Dragons, even with 2-1 upgrades, they don't just scale that well into the very late game, you know? And keep in mind that undead heroes are going to be so dangerous. Double level 5 is so close. 120 goes for another red camp here. The only remaining red camp on the map. I can't believe that he has the audacity and bravery to go for that when he has very little vision onto his Night Elf opponent, because there's no shade, there's nothing nearby, and Moon sniffs it out immediately. Goes for the rotten taste of fiends and undead heroes alike. Gets the first fiend in this fight, but both destroyers have good mana. They are dealing extra damage now onto the Hippo Riders, onto the heroes, because once again, they can't even attack those Fairy Dragons. The Death Knight is in a lot of trouble. Doesn't have a TP this time. If this one falls, the backbone of the undead army will be in shambles. But hey, that Invul potion was a real lifesaver. He still has a healing potion, healing scroll, excuse me, has to use it immediately. And when you have to use a scroll of healing just to keep 1 unit alive, that is not good value. A beautiful lightning reflex coming in from Moon there as well, with that Invul potion denying the level 3 coil from taking down the Keeper. What a wonderful display of quick human reactions. So good. Here goes another coil, but he denies it again. Is it going to be enough, though? A level 4 Keeper says goodbye. This was a crucial victory for 120. Without the Keeper, what can the Night Elf army do? Now, mind you, the air units, at this point, they are all that matters. They can focus fire down undead unit after undead unit, but they need to be careful of that Lich. An exchange of blows. Both players are showing formidable display of micro, of quick reactions. Hell, mind you, I could never do this, especially not in the heat of battle when you need to micro so many things at the same time. You need to move your units, you need to check on your base every now and then, you need to look at the minimap, you need to control your heroes. To have enough capacity to drop these last second saves is nothing but admirable. Now, with the Keeper being dead for at least, I would say another 2 minutes or so, this creep spot is golden. This creep spot could drop a really sick item for 120. Maybe a Brilliance Aura, you know, the pipe of insight. Maybe he already has a Flute of Accuracy, right? So that one, don't really need any more auras. Don't stack. Maybe a good stat item for the Lich as well. Foot of Cunning or something along those lines. What does he get? Claws plus 12. Well, talk about boosting stats on the Lich. Daddy Lich is going to be very happy about this present that the Granite Golem left behind for him. Claws of Attack should definitely be transferred from the Death Knight into Lich, unless the Death Knight wants to go for another Orb of Corruption himself, so he has 2 heroes capable of attacking air units, which honestly at this point wouldn't even be too far-fetched, I think. Considering that he's running dangerously low on fiends, I think having another strong unit being able to attack air units would make sense, but he can't do it anyways in the first place. The Tomb of Relics was sniped. No more shop available for the undead as well. And now 120 is getting furious about this constant Fairy Dragon harass. He wants to find those Night Elves units. He wants to find and fight them at the same time. But Moon is too good. A lot of people forget about Moon when it comes to applying these late game shenanigans. Of course, we all know him to be the godlike micro player that he is. The innovative mind that comes up with so many different strategies. But he's also quite the lame trickster sometimes, you know, that knows how to outplay his opponents. Of course, he's one of the most experienced, if not the experienced player in the scene that we currently have. So he knows every trick. He knows every corner, every inch of the map that there is to abuse and exploit. And I think he realizes that in a straight-up fight, these undead heroes might have actually become too strong. They may have actually become so strong, getting so close to level 6 here as well, that he may just try to win by killing the undead economy, killing the undead expansion over and over. And in a straight-up base race, the Night Elf would win this easily as well, because the undead cannot build units and buildings on the map as easily. And with fiends only, the damage when it comes to racing buildings is also not the greatest. So once again, we see a two-prong attack. The Night Elf heroes take out the expansion while the air units flood the gates and flood into the main base of the undead. Once again, these fairy dragons do not really care about the slow applied by the Black Citadel. They do take damage, as it is piercing damage, not magic damage, but they do not get slowed. Alright, and it is a constant game of attacking, TPing, attacking, TPing. And at this point, if you're 1-2-0, you're getting mad. You're getting furious. You just want to get that level 6. But how do you get level 6 if your enemy decides to refuse any fights? You know, to refuse fighting. He's trying to get that expansion, because without the expansion, even a Reckless Moon will have to think twice about engaging too recklessly into the base. You know, because he no longer has that automated guarantee to buy TPs whenever they are available. And it looks like this time Moon was a little bit too slow to join the party. So this expansion is going to fall. This expansion is going to fall. And what is 1-2-0 going to get in the main base of the undead? He's attacking the Black Citadel. By the way, I stand corrected. Fairy Dragons do get slowed by the Black Citadel. It is a normal attack. It is not a magic attack or a magic effect. So I stand corrected and I apologize for the misinformation. But now, 1-2-0, destroying this expansion, really, really important. Now, where's the Night Elf Tree of... Wait, where is it? Was that one killed earlier? Oh, no, there it is. Okay, Tree of Ages has moved over. Of course, one of the greatest things about the Night Elven race is that they can use some of their buildings to walk on over, even when you don't have the means to build another expansion. As long as your main tree is available, you still have that option. And that's exactly what he's doing right now. The Destroyer was probably forgotten about by 1-2-0. Tries to go on a Wisp Hunt, providing additional experience for that level 6. Needs to be careful, though. The Alchemist can attack up into the air. And 1-2-0 is losing a Destroyer. That is not game deciding, but that is certainly not ideal, because every unit matters. The Keeper bought a Potion of Invisibility, so he's safe for now. Was there dust available? Probably there was, but does 1-2-0 even have enough money at this point? Yes, he has, but he needs to be very peculiar and very wise as to how he used that remaining gold. Oh my goodness, the Keeper is so low. The Night Elf units are weaker. This has to be decided by base racing. I think at this point, the Fiend count is good enough. The undead heroes are too strong, so Moon needs to rely on diversion, needs to rely on distraction, and who is going to come out on top here in that matter? Look at the damage. Death coils, normal attacks. That Keeper is in a very precarious situation, needs to save this Destroyer home immediately. Oh my goodness. And mana regeneration also of the essence here. The constant death coiling, the constant attacking here. And I can't stress enough how difficult it is to play this two-base game, you know, or two-attention game, when you have to pay attention on the one side of the map, but also on the other side of the map. Whereas Moon is basically having all of his units together. He destroys the Tree of Ages! No income versus no income! And Moon also destroyed the Necropolis! Both players are going to get revealed soon, because when you don't have any main buildings at home, you don't have control over your vision. And both opponents are going to spot one another. How much money does Moon have? Only 265. So are both players completely dry on resources? Are both players left without the ability to rebuild buildings? You gotta be kidding me. The Necropolis is coming in. 1-2-0 has found a spot where he can potentially restabilize in. He probably got some creeping money done somewhere. He probably sold some items as well to really get some money in the bank again. And here we go. This could be the last stand for either of the player. The moment a major team fight breaks out, it could be the very last one. And Moon got himself a Zeppelin for additional saving potential. Now, this Zeppelin is meant to act as a shield against incoming undead nuke, right? Whenever an undead tries to go for a Coil Nova combo, if the Night Elf player is fast enough, if Moon is fast enough, he can put those heroes into a Zeppelin, preventing the damage from being taken. But once again, you need to have lightning speed reflexes for that. Alright. So here we go. Does Moon know about this? We're going to go into his vision. He does not. He has no idea where this Necropolis is standing right now. But he knows that 1-2-0 is up to something, because at this point, he's no longer revealed. And is the Alchemist actually going to fall to the undead nuke? No way. He does have an Invulf potion. That could be a lifesaver. Is this an ambush? Is it a trap? Oh no, it's not a trap. Where's the Zeppelin? The Zeppelin is the only saving grace. A Nova, a Coil, One more auto attack and the staff is through. You madman, Moon. You gotta be kidding me. And I think 120 was already miscalculating the damage. He was calculating the damage to be enough to kill him. Cool guys don't look at kills, and the Lich was already returning. If he had gotten that one more auto attack kill, that would have been the saving grace for the undead player. But as it is, the Keeper of the Grove with the Staff of Preservation saves his second hero this one time. And Trends are now on a scouting mission. They need to find this necropolis. Now, one disadvantage for undeads when it comes to hiding buildings, well, there's unholy ground. So it's rather easy for units. Oh my goodness, the Trent actually died, but he had vision, right? He must have had vision on it. Yes, he does. So now Moon knows, and it's only a question of time until the remaining fairy dragons and the heroes are going to attempt to tackle this building. There's only a couple of buildings left, and I like what 120 is doing here. He's leaving destroyers and fiends at base because he knows that only those units can deal with the absurd number of fairy dragons still alive in this game, whereas the heroes are trying to pressure the Night Elf heroes. And at this point, level 6, by the way, on the DK, almost level 6 on the Lich. And level 6 on the Lich, let me tell you, with Death and Decay, might be a winning factor when it comes to base racing. There it is, that one little trend gave him all the experience he needed. And now here goes the focus. Does he even go Death and Decay? That's the question, right? Does he think that he needs the extra damage, percentage damage onto buildings, or does he stay in the fight? Does he try to go for maybe a Dark Ritual, level 3 for more mana? And it looks like Moon is committed. Moon is smelling his chance for victory here. He still has the superior number of units. The coils are great. The coils are golden. And what is 120 doing now, right now? He can't afford to lose this in Necropolis, so he's putting back the Fiends. The DK mana. Mana Household is now the most important thing for the undead. As long as the coils are flowing, as long as the healing is there, I think he has a chance. Loses another Fiends, and the Fiends are down to 3. Down to 3. The Lich mana is good, but what is he going to do with it? He can't use it against those Fairy Dragons. And the Fairy Dragons, of course, have the Moon Juice as well. They can heal at home. The moment it turns night again, which is about to happen, there's going to be another great boon for the Night Elf player. Coil Nova hides him in the Zeppelin, as we talked about earlier. Easy at this point. Well played by Moon. And every point of mana he draws and sucks from the DK matters. Every mana point matters. And here is the Death and Decay. We see this glorious sieging ult by the Lich, dealing so much damage to everything in its radius. So also friendly units need to be careful. You can't have that feat in there, otherwise it's gonna die. So look at the percentage damage, destroying several buildings at the time. This could be all the difference the Lich player, the Undead player 120 is trying to go for. But Moon is not idle. Moon does not sit back at home. He's trying to destroy those buildings. But without the heroes, without the Treants, it takes a long time. We talked about Fairy Dragons and how many Fairy Dragons he still had in his reservoir. They're also piercing damage, just like Fiends. They're not the greatest sieging units, but the Treants, the Ancients, they are marching. No longer does he need them as buildings. He's using them as units, as additional normal damage units to take down the Necropolis. And now players are going to have to fight on multiple fronts all the time. I think 120 has given up. He has given up the main base. All of his attention will be centered around this Necropolis. He's trying to kill those Ancients, which in my opinion is the right call. Not only does he destroy another buildings, but he also destroys a big chunk, a big source of normal damage. And he needs to keep this Necropolis safe. This is his last bastion in the bottom right corner. Moon only needs to take down one additional building, and then he's got this victory in this game. He will have taken down 120. And 120, you're distracted by this Ancient of Wind. You need to go home to the Necropolis right now. You need to spot and sniff out those Fairy Dragons and take him down. But Moon, also not fully committed yet, even makes the Wisp detonate. Such good paying attention to detail. Level 6 Lich. Strong inventory, strong mana. The DK is recovering the mana as well. Those coils are so crucial right now. Keep those Fiends alive to stand at least a little bit of a chance. This is an absolute Monka Giga moment at the moment for both players. They could fall. How many buildings does Moon have left? 1, 2, 3. And that's it. No more Ancients. That's it. If you lose a hero, that's it. Right there. Where's the Zeppelin, by the way? Always next to the Keeper. Always next to the Keeper, as it should be. Even when there is no Moonwells, even when there is no Invul Potion, the Zeppelin could actually help here. Oh, the Zeppelin, speaking of which, is a little bit too far away. Has to use... Oh no, the Zeppelin actually got webbed as well, but the Keeper is just a distraction. The Keeper, it is a distraction. The Alchemist and the Fairy Dragons, they're all there. The Keeper died. No more distraction here. No more Zeppelin saves, but can 1-0 make it back in time? Look at those Fairy Dragons. I think he's committed. I think he's committed to the right clicks. What can you do 1-0 to save this? You only have 3 webs at a time. You have no Nova to slow this down, and I think he's going to lose this game. The great trickster Moon has done it again, sacrificing the Keeper. Wait a minute. He built another one! 1-0 built another one. He had enough money. He sold items beforehand. He built another Necro. Baited. And baited he was. And baited I was. And baited you probably were as well. Unless you were looking at the minimap very thoroughly. The sneaky Acolyte, he saved it when no one thought he had an Acolyte left. He's hiding it again. How much money does he have? How much money does 1-0 have right now? Probably enough to build another one if he cancels it in time. What a mad lad. And now Moon is like, where is it? I need to find it. Where is it? Buildings take extra damage while they're in construction. Excuse me. So this will have to be protected immediately. No more Keeper. Such a big deal. No more treants for scouting. No more treants for dealing extra damage onto building. He catches another Fairy Dragon. Every unit matters. We said this many times, but it is the truth. Where's the Alchemist? Okay, Moon has found out where the Undead is hiding. He's using all of his remaining damage to destroy the Necropolis that is in construction, in production. The Alki, fully dedicated, fully committed. Can he do it? The Alchemist is down. Are you kidding me? It is GG! With Moon winning a game without heroes in the end. The Fairy Dragon damage, it was enough. And what an absolute unit. The Night Elf player destroying the last building. It couldn't have been any closer. Kudos to 1-0. He had all the right tricks up his sleeve, but unfortunately you can't trick the trickster. That is Moon. He's seen it all. Wonderfully done. This was probably the most hyped game I've casted in this replay cast series at all. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We have to give so many kudos to both players because I feel like if we had had any lower caliber players, any lower class players, this game would have been decided a long time ago. But since both players were on even footing, they managed to drag it out until such a long time, and really when 2 or 3 Fairy Dragons that were left at the end are the deciding factor between victory and loss, then you know you've watched a good game of Warcraft 3. Could have 1-0 won that game perhaps in an alternate universe, but we cannot fault any player's performance when the game was this close on a high level such as this. So, with that being said, guys, I genuinely hope you enjoyed this game as much as I did. I really hope you enjoyed the action from start to finish. Undead versus Night Elf can be such a beautiful matchup, can't it? And we're going to be back with more Warcraft 3 casting in the future. So if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a thumbs up or leave a comment down in the comment section down below. I can't even talk right now anymore because I'm so pumped by this. And subscribe to the channel, for more upcoming Warcraft 3 goodness. I would be very happy to welcome you back. Until then, peace out and see you around.